Hi YouTube. So first of all, I'm not a mechanic. I don't really know what I'm doing. I'm just going to tell you about my experience with the stabilizer link for the Chevrolet Volt, or the stabilizer shaft link as I believed it's also called. Obviously this is an old one and this is a new one, and I had some difficulty removing the old one, as you can see. So I want to share my experience with you, so hopefully it will help you in some way, maybe. So the problem with removing this, it sits like this, right, behind the wheel, and sorry, like that. This is facing away from you, and this top one is facing you. And the one facing you is quite easy, and the one away from you is more difficult. It says in the manual to use an Allen key to hold the bolt in place while you screw the nut. You have to hold this bolt in place because this bolt is actually movable. There's a ball joint in there, and so this is very flexible, and I can't move it with my hand, but once you start screwing this bolt, it will stick to the, screwing the nut, it will stick to the bolt, and the bolt will everything will just twist. So you have to hold the bolt in place, and it says in the manual to use an Allen key, and this new one has a 6-sided hole inside of it, so that will be fine. But it turned out, which annoyed me a little bit, that this old one did not fit an Allen key. Rather, it's a one of these Torx screws that fits in there, and that wasn't easy to see because this was rather dirty and rusted. This lower one was really stuck, and I needed to use a quite long wrench to get sufficient force to get this bolt to the nut to move at all. And then what you have to do is to get an appropriately sized Torx screw and hold it in the hole. Hold it in place while you use a hollow, one of these, and you screw the nut. So hopefully you'll be able to hold the bolt in place with the Torx screw at the same time as you're twisting, and you'll have to go back and forth, back and forth. My problem turned out to be that this was a bit too rusted, so or maybe I had the wrong size Torx screw, so my Torx screw eventually started slipping. So in the end I decided to saw the whole bolt off, and that was not fun, but I'm just telling you that if you get there, it is possible to saw it off with manually with one of these just metal saws. I didn't want to use power tools because I don't really have any appropriate ones, and I don't want to damage anything. That took about 2 or 3 hours. It wasn't fun at all, but it's possible, so you know. I just want to say this because it says on the internet that this is quite an easy job, and I think it is if things aren't rusted and getting stuck, as in most cases. So you should probably go to a mechanic to get this done if you suspect that things are gonna get stuck. One more thing I want to say is that I thought this was broken because it could twist, right? And I saw in some videos that if you can twist it easily, then it's broken. I couldn't shake it, I couldn't move it up and down, but I can twist it. However, I think I'm pretty sure these are supposed to be twistable, right? Because the ball joint here means that this is flexible in the joint, so this is going to move around. And when I had installed the new one, I could also twist it. Maybe it was a bit stiffer than the old one, but I don't think just because you're able to twist it, it means that it's broken. So be sure to really make sure that it is broken before you replace it. One more thing about the nuts. It says in the manual that these are torque to yield nuts, I believe they're called. I don't know anything about them, but as far as I understand and what it says in the manual is that you shouldn't reuse them because they are one time only, because once you torque them, you stretch them out somehow and they lose in structural integrity somewhat. So if you unscrew this and then screw it on again, it will not be as safe as it was to begin with, so to say. So I saw in another video, I believe it was how to do it something. There was a person who was able to unscrew the nut, and instead of holding the bolt in place using an Allen key or Torx bits, they had a clamp on this part here and held it really tight and was able to hold it in place. I tried that. I was not successful. The reason is that on this old one, if you don't have a really good tool to clamp really hard, you can see that it's completely circular, right? And it also has a lot of grease on it. So there's grease in here, and this will just keep on spinning if your bolt is kind of stuckish. Interestingly, the new link, stabilizer link, has grooves on this circular metal part right there and there. So you see it's slightly flattened on the side. So you will probably, with the new one, be able to hold onto this with a wrench of some sort. But with this old original one that was on the car, that was not possible, so that was unfortunate, of course.